Hello! So today we're going to talk about fabric dyeing and painting. This is a really fun skill to learn, and there's so much you can do with it. You can change the way, fabrics look, the way that they appear to feel, all of those things, with really some pretty simple techniques. A lot of times people talk about tie-dye, and when they talk about tie-dye, a lot of times people will think of hippies from the 1960s. And in fact, these are techniques that have been used in countries like India and Japan for years and years and years and years and, thousands and thousands and thousands of years, right? It's only the interest in Eastern culture in the 60s and 70s that really made tie-dye become sort of, a really popular trend in America. And it comes back time and again, okay? So when we talk about dyeing fabric, right, we're talking about adding a compound that changes the color of the fabric. And that can be anything from what we've called natural dyes, which could be things like beet juice, right? That stains really great, to a product like RIT dye, which is a really great dye to use for home and for theater and things like that. It's actually a combination of 3 different types of dye and sodium chloride, aka salt, that dyes a lot of fabrics really well. And so the dye that you have in your kit that we send home in your box is RIT dye, okay? There are also Protion dyes, like dyes for painting silk, and I'm gonna show you some examples of that today. So there are different dyes for different things, right? And I just want to kind of go over some techniques that you can use, and something here may spark your interest. If it's something that sparks your interest, but you don't have the supplies to do it, get a hold of me. I would be more than happy to do a dye day in the fall. Okay? Awesome. All right. So the first thing I want to show you is this really cool texture. I think it looks like geodes or something like that. This is silk, and it was actually just sort of, wadded up fabric, and I tied it with a string, and then I dyed the whole thing black, and I rinsed it out, okay, and then I tied it some more, and I dyed it again a second time in a product called Color Remover that is made by RIT, and it actually pulls the color back out of the fabric. Why do you do that? That's crazy. Well, it doesn't always pull out all of the color, and so you can see there are like some yellows and greens and things like that that get left behind. And I just went back and forth, black, color remover, black, color remover, until I got, I felt like it was the look that I was gonna want, and then I carefully snipped the threads and the strings. Be very careful you don't wind up cutting your end product when you do that. Don't get in a hurry. Your little snips are really great for that because they've got that sharp little point you can get underneath the string. Okay, so this is just RIT, and like I said, the color remover, and you can see how that turns out. This one, again, another nice, just general texture. This one, the fabric, I get it wet, and then we kind of just scrunchy waddy it. That's a technical term. Okay. And then we're going to tie it just loosely, and we're going to put it into just about 1 inch of water in the pot. Okay. And so we've got that damp fabric sitting in the pot. And then I took my RIT dye and just poured it into a few places. And then I took some, let's say I did that with the yellow, and then I took some red and I sprinkled it on top and let that steam a little bit and cook, and then rinsed the whole thing out. And that's what gives it, really nice texture. You can still see the original white, but there's also the yellow and this sort of red-orange color, like a cardinal red, mixed in there. So you can do that kind of thing. This is that same technique of the scrunchy fabric, but this one is, what I did was I made a stencil. This one's on just muslin. I made a stencil of the letter J for Jana, and I cut that stencil out of freezer paper. And you might not know what freezer paper is. It's really cool. It's really great for dye stuff. It's actually like it's a Reynolds wrap product, and it's like with the aluminum foil and the, you know, cling wrap and those kind of products. And you can iron it onto the fabric and it will stick. Okay, so I cut out the J and I ironed on my template here, and then here, that J that I cut out, ironed onto this side. And then I sprayed it with bleach water. And so you can see, here I put the J, sorry, there I put the template. So you can see where it lifted the dye color. Okay, you can only do this on like cotton. If you put bleach onto silk, it will eat the fibers. Okay, remember that was one of our fiber test things that we could do, was bleach on silk will make the fibers disappear. All right, you can make really simple patterns if you would like, if you don't want things that are abstract. This is literally just a piece of fabric that was what we call fan folded. Okay, and I know you've all done this with construction paper back in the day, right? Where you fold it back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Okay, and you want to fold like this, and then literally I just tied it. You can see the stripes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Just tied some string around it and pulled it down really tight and snug, and then dyed the whole thing into kind of a green color dye. The fan folding, you see, it gives all these little places the dye can get in and dye the fabric. If you fold in like a rolling sort of way like this, the dye can't get into those first few layers, and so they won't have any color. So you'll have it kind of more dye on one end and none in the middle, and you might think that would be like a cool ombre look, but it's not. It's just messy. So don't do that. Okay. We'll talk about that one. Okay, this one, this is a really cool technique. A lot of these are what we call shibori dye, which is a Japanese term. The art of shaped resist is what shibori means. Okay, and the examples that are on your Moodle are techniques that are from a really great book about shibori. Okay, this one, again, remember our fan folding, right? So this one is fan folded this direction, and then it's folded again. Then it's folded again into like triangles, or it can be folded into just squares, rectangles, back and forth. But again, the fan fold, right? The fan fold, the fan fold, the fan fold. This one, if you're having a little trouble with your silk, it's just like not wanting to fold for you, you can, you know, do that first fold on the ironing board and press it, and then fold the next one and press it. And, you know, as with so many of these sort of like Japanese arts, it's simple. It's in the mastery of the technique that you get a beautiful product. Okay, this one has actually been dyed twice. The first time it was dyed red, and there was a lot of white left, and so then I dyed the whole thing orange, and that's where it comes from. But so you can fan fold it, and this one was actually clamped between 2 boards and dyed, like the whole boards and all that goes into the pot of water, and all the little bits that stick out around the edge of the board are the parts that get the dye. Okay, I'm going to break this into another video, and we will talk about tying.